Hi everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel Dr.Sreenivas Medical Concepts and my FB page Dr.Sreenivas Concepts. This is Dr. Sreenivas, neurologist from Rajahmundry, Andhra Pradesh, India. My email is sreeklpm@gmail.com. I'm also the medical author of two books, Focused Neurology and Exam Oriented Clinical Neurology. Today we are going to talk about a very important MRI sequence known as T2 and T1 sequences. T1 and T2 sequences, neuroimaging concepts, part 7. T1 and T2 sequences. The terms T1 and T2 weighting refers to the time constants for proton relaxation. These may be altered to highlight certain features of tissue structure. But how do we identify whether it's a T1 sequence or a T2 sequence? In T1 sequence, the CSF appears dark. The gray matter is hypointense, black. The white matter is hyperintense, white. So it follows the normal color of the brain. So if you see the T1 weighted images, the CSF appears dark. The gray matter, which is darker, also appears black, hypointense. The white matter is hyperintense, white. So this appears normal. But in T2 sequences, the CSF appears bright. The gray matter is hyperintense, white, and the white matter is hypointense, black. So in T2 weighted images, the CSF appears bright. The gray matter is actually white, hyperintense, and the white matter is actually hypointense, black. So how do we differentiate T1 weighted images and T2 weighted images? In T1 weighted images, the CSF appears dark, and in T2 weighted images, the CSF appears bright. But if we see the film, it will be able to appreciate it better. So here you can see this is the T1 sequence, this is the T2 weighted images. So here you can see the CSF is black. So the first thing we should note on MRI is that what is the color, what is the intensity, whether it is hyperintense or hypointense. If it is hypointense, that is dark. If the CSF appears dark or hypointense, it is a T1. If it appears white or bright or hyperintense, if the CSF appears white, bright or hyperintense, that means it is a T2 sequence. Then we need to check out on the gray matter and the white matter. So this is the gray matter and this is the white matter. So here you can see this is the gray matter, and here you can see the corona radiata, this is the white matter. So here it follows the normal color code, that is the gray matter is gray or dark and the white matter is white, that is bright. So normal. So this is the gray matter which appears hypointense or dark. This is the white matter which appears hyperintense or bright. But if you see T2, it is just the opposite. The gray matter now appears bright or white, hyperintense, whereas the white matter now appears dark or hypointense. So in T2 image, the gray matter is hyperintense and the white matter is hypointense or dark. So with these three characteristics, we can differentiate whether it is T1 or T2. The first thing we should note is the color of the CSF. If the CSF is hypointense or dark, it suggests T1. If the CSF is bright or white, it suggests T2. Then we need to look at the gray matter and the white matter. In T1, the gray matter is gray or black or hypointense, and white matter is white or bright or hyperintense. Whereas in T2, the gray matter is hyperintense white or bright, whereas the white matter is hypointense or dark or black. So this is how we differentiate T1 and T2, the importance of which I will discuss in the following editions. So these are the important concepts of T1 and T2 weighted sequences. The other important concepts of clinical neurology, I put it in a book called Exam Oriented Clinical Neurology, which will be very useful for students appearing for the clinical neurology exams. The other important theory concepts of neurology, I put it in a question and answer format in a book, Focused Neurology, written by me, Dr.Sreenivas. This book is published by CBS Publishers and Distributors, and this book is available online from all leading booksellers including Amazon. So if interested, this book could be purchased online. So if you have liked and shared it, if you have liked it, please share the link. But please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Dr. Sreenivas Medical Concepts, which is India's leading neurology educational YouTube channels. So please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Dr. Sreenivas Medical Concepts, and my FB page, Dr. Sreenivas Concepts. Thank you. Bye.